Welcome back, historians. Today we are going over the end of the Civil War. We finally made it here. But before we do over that, let's do a little bit of review of what we've been talking about so far. Last assignment we talked about the Battle of Vicksburg and how it completed step 2 of the Anaconda Plan, giving the Union total control of the Mississippi River, cutting the South in half. We've also talked about the importance of the Gettysburg Address, where Lincoln officially changed the purpose of fighting the Civil War from keeping the Union together to ending slavery in the northern continent. So the year is 1864, and the Civil War has been raging on for 4 years. People in the Union are starting to get tired and actually question Abraham Lincoln's ability to end the Civil War. Yes, Lincoln did have to run for re-election during the war.
Crazy.
The Confederacy obviously really wanted Lincoln to lose the election because McClellan wasn't set on a Union victory. So the Confederacy was really hoping that Lincoln would lose his re-election and the war would end with the Confederate States intact. Because public opinion was dropping for the Civil War and people were questioning Lincoln's leadership styles, Lincoln knew he had to pull off something big. So what Lincoln decided to do is split his troops in half. General Grant of the entire military would go execute phase 3 of the Anaconda Plan and attempt to capture, once again, Richmond, Virginia. At this time, General Sherman marched his forces down to take over Atlanta. At this point in the war, General Grant and Sherman had developed their own modern military tactics called total war. Total war meant that not only would Grant fight to weaken his enemy's troops on the battlefield, but they would also fight to weaken their enemy's ability to support their armies in supplying resources such as guns, bullets, new boots, uniforms, whatever they needed. While General Sherman was marching down to Atlanta, they burned everything in their sight. After General Sherman successfully captured Atlanta, many people in the North believed that Lincoln was actually close to being successful in ending the war. Public opinion for the war in the North shot up because they saw these successes. After Sherman captured Atlanta, he marched his army of 64,000 men. As they marched to Savannah, they literally burned everything in sight. Fields, houses, barns. They would slaughter livestock that they themselves weren't going to eat or take along with them, and it was total destruction. Could you imagine if you just had a house that laid in their warpath? Anything within a 60-mile radius was destroyed. Meanwhile, General Grant was in Richmond attempting to capture the city. After 9 months of fighting and inching slowly closer to Richmond, on April 1st, 1865, the Confederacy surrendered their capital of Richmond to the Union forces. The next day, General Lee and President Davis of the Confederacy met with General Grant and President Lincoln in a private home in the town of Appomattox courthouse. In the private home was where the Confederacy signed their surrender to the Union, once again unifying the nation. So now, after 4 years of fighting within the Civil War, the war had come to an end, but not without great cost. Over 620,000 American lives have been lost just in the war. This is the greatest loss of American life in any war to date. And there were still thousands of soldiers who did not lose their lives but lost a limb and were amputees returning home to a new reality. Because of the military tactic of total war, thousands of miles of arable or farmable land had been destroyed, as well as billions of dollars of infrastructure, or homes, buildings, and roads. Even though the South was a part of the Union and slavery was outlawed, they still yearned for the way things were, and they yearned to return to a former way of life. Many whites had the liberty to choose how the white people were going to determine free blacks' status within society. Hint, nothing really changed. But we'll talk about that next unit in Reconstruction. So that's it. The war is over, Lincoln was reelected for a second term, and now they have to figure out how the North and the South can actually coexist as one nation. For today's lesson, you are going to continue reading with some more finer details on what actually happened. I miss you all dearly. I hope that you all are doing well. Please reach out to me or Mr. Tyrell in office hours anytime between 12 and 1 p.m. on Google Hangouts. They are posted in your classroom streams. Good luck, historians. You got this.